The twin suns of Kael's home planet hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the metallic city. The wind howled through the empty streets, carrying with it the scent of burning fuel and strange alien spices. Inside a small, cramped home, a boy no taller than a human child's shoulder knelt beside his mother, his tiny hands trembling as he tried to hold her close. She lay on the cold metal floor, her chest barely moving, her breathing shallow and uneven. Kael's large green eyes were filled with fear, tears streaming down his small cheeks, sparkling like tiny diamonds under the dim lights. He shook her gently, whispering words he barely understood. "Mom, please, don't leave me. I need you." Every breath she took seemed weaker than the last, and Kael felt a cold panic rising inside him. He had seen death before, in small animals and distant news feeds, but never in someone he loved so much. And now, for the first time, he understood what it meant to be helpless. He ran to the control panel on the wall, pressing buttons randomly, hoping some machine would answer. Red lights blinked and alarms hummed, but nothing happened. He shouted, "Human! Please! Somebody! Help my mom!" The word human sounded strange even to him, but he had read about humans in old holobooks, and he remembered they were brave, strong, and wise. Somehow, he thought, a human might save her when he could not. Far away, light years across the galaxy, Dr. Elias Grant sat in his lab on the edge of a human outpost staring at his console. He was reviewing star charts when a strange signal flashed on his screen, a faint, trembling sound that seemed almost like crying. Elias frowned and leaned closer, his brow furrowing. It was not a normal signal. It carried emotion, desperation, and fear. He felt a strange pull in his chest, as if the boy was reaching through space directly to him. Instinctively, he played. He set his hand on the console, and the voice became clearer, whispering, "Human, please. My mom won't breathe." Elias froze, his heart pounding, wondering if this was a prank, a malfunction, or something beyond comprehension. Back on Kael's planet, the boy's mother groaned softly, a sound so faint it almost seemed like a whisper. Kael shook her again, pressing his small body against hers, willing her to wake, willing her to fight. He remembered the stories she told him about brave humans who had traveled the stars to save strangers. Could one of those humans hear him now? The thought gave him a fragile hope, and he shouted louder, "Human! I'm begging you, please come!" He did not understand how or why, but he felt a connection forming across the vast emptiness of space. Somewhere, a human was listening, and maybe, just maybe, they could help. Dr. Grant's mind raced, trying to decode the alien language. It was complex, full of tonal shifts and emotions he had never encountered, yet somehow, he understood every word as clearly as if the boy stood before him. The urgency, the fear, the love for a mother. It was universal, transcending species, planets, and light years. Elias knew he could not ignore this. He activated his equipment, preparing a response. Something, anything that might reach the boy and his mother in time. Kael slumped beside his mother, exhausted, but still refusing to give up. He whispered stories, songs, and promises, trying to comfort her, trying to remind her that she was loved. Every second felt like an hour. Every sound felt louder, every shadow deeper. The boy's heart pounded like a drum, echoing the fear that filled the small room. Outside, the wind blew harder, rattling the metal walls, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Kael did not notice. His world had shrunk to the small space between life and death, between hope and despair. Meanwhile, Dr. Grant's hands moved quickly, scanning alien biology, researching cures, and preparing the fastest interstellar response he could manage. He did not know the boy's name or even the exact location, but the signal guided him, pulling him closer to the child's fear and the mother's fragile life. Something deep inside told him that failure was not an option, that Kael's cries were reaching into his soul for a reason. The lab lights flickered as Elias worked faster, ignoring exhaustion and risk. Time itself seemed to slow as the two lives, one human, one alien, began to connect in a bond forged by desperation and hope. Kael's tears fell onto his mother's cold hands, each one carrying a wish, a prayer, a silent plea. And somewhere, far away, a human felt that pain, that fear, that unyielding love. The universe had conspired to bring them together at this moment. And though neither fully understood the other, a bridge of courage and trust was forming across the stars. It was the start of something greater than either of them could imagine. And in that moment, with the boy's scream echoing into the cosmos, a story began. One of heroism, hope, and the unimaginable power of connection. The stars outside Dr. Elias Grant's lab twinkled faintly, a silent reminder of how far he was from the boy and his mother, yet the signal from Kale's world pulsed in his mind, bright and urgent, demanding attention. He leaned closer to the console, his fingers flying over holographic buttons, adjusting frequencies, decoding patterns. The alien language was unlike anything he had ever seen, full of tonal vibrations that seemed almost alive. Elias felt a strange sensation, as if the boy's fear was a physical weight pressing against his chest. Every cry, every plea, every desperate whisper crossed the empty space between worlds and struck him like lightning. Kale sat on the cold metal floor beside his mother, shivering. He had tried to understand the humans before through old holobooks. They were strong, clever, and brave, but could they really hear him now? He clenched his small fists, pressing them to his eyes. "Please, someone, help!" he whispered into the empty room. The mother coughed weakly, a sound that pierced Kyle's heart. Her chest rose just slightly, then fell again, and he knew the virus was still winning. Time was slipping through his fingers like sand. Every second mattered, every pause was dangerous, and the room felt colder than before. In the human lab, Elias's mind raced, analyzing the alien physiology through the faint energy signatures in the signal. He realized this was not a virus humans had ever encountered. It was more advanced, more dangerous, yet fragile in some ways he could exploit. His mind worked faster than his fingers could move. He imagined the boy beside his mother, trembling, hoping, and waiting. The connection was more than technology. It was emotional, psychic, and raw. He could feel the boy's tears, sense the fear in his tiny heart, and even feel the faint pulse of the mother's weakening life. Kale's eyes widened as the console on the wall suddenly glowed. He did not understand the strange patterns appearing on the screen, but a voice spoke, deep and calm, yet full of warmth. "Kyle, I hear you. I will help your mother." The boy gasped, stumbling back. It was the human. Someone was answering. He pressed his hands to his mouth, trying not to cry out too loudly. His mother groaned, and he shook her gently, whispering, "It's okay. They're coming. Human will help." The connection seemed impossible, yet here it was, stronger than any machine, stronger than any distance. Elias took a deep breath and spoke again, guiding the boy. He explained slowly, in words the boy could understand, what to do. "Kyle, stay calm. Key. Put your hands on her chest. Watch the monitors. Help me help her." Kyle repeated the instructions carefully, feeling a surge of hope he had never felt before. He followed every word, every gesture, every beep of the machine. The nanobots he could not see were beginning to move inside his mother's body. They were small, fast, and precise, programmed to fight the virus that was killing her. Kale pressed the buttons Elias instructed him to, feeling a strange rhythm form between them. It was as if the boy and the human were dancing together across light years, with life itself hanging in the balance. Outside the small home, shadows shifted strangely, and the hum of the planet's energy storm grew louder. Kale shivered, but he refused to leave his mother's side. He whispered encouragement, singing soft lullabies, hoping the sound would reach her heart as well as the nanobots. Elias felt the boy's love, raw and unyielding, and it guided his actions. No human training could have prepared him for this level of connection. It was as if the universe itself had made them allies. One human, one alien boy, one life to save, and an impossible bond forming in the quiet spaces between stars. Minutes stretched, feeling like hours. Kale's hands trembled, but he did not stop following Elias's instructions. His mother's breathing began to stabilize slightly, a faint rise and fall that brought a glimmer of hope. The boy's tears continued to fall, but now they were mixed with relief and awe. He looked at the glowing screens, at the light reflecting in his mother's eyes, and he realized, perhaps for the first time, that humans were more than legends. They were real. They could cross worlds, understand pain, and answer cries that seemed impossible to reach. Elias adjusted the final settings, watching the data spike. The nanobots were working faster, targeting the virus, repairing damaged tissue, and restoring the mother's oxygen. He could feel Kale's joy through the connection, subtle but powerful. He smiled, knowing that his gamble, his daring, choice to answer an unknown alien signal was paying off. For the first time, the boy laughed softly, a sound full of wonder and disbelief. "Thank you, human. You really came," he whispered, hugging his mother closer. Elias nodded silently, watching the miracle unfold across galaxies. It was not just science, it was hope, courage, and the impossible connection between two worlds. And in that moment, Kale understood something important. Humans could listen, care, and act. Even when they were light years away, the impossible connection had been made, and life, fragile as it was, had a chance to continue. The room where Kale sat with his mother felt colder than ever, the metal walls echoing every sound. Her breathing was shallow, uneven, and each faint sigh made Kyle's chest tighten with fear. He kept one hand on her chest, feeling the slow, fragile rise and fall, praying with all his heart. Outside, the wind howled against the walls, rattling the shutters, as if the planet itself was impatient. Kyle's eyes darted to the console, to the glowing screen where the human's voice guided him. Every instruction was precise, urgent, and Kale followed them carefully, afraid that a single mistake could cost his mother her life. Across the galaxy, Dr. Elias Grant worked with unmatched focus. His lab was filled with holographic displays, medical schematics, alien physiology charts, and glowing vials. He moved quickly, adjusting nanobot sequences, predicting the virus's behavior, and calculating the perfect dosage. Each second was precious, and he could feel the pull of the boy's fear through the signal. It was like holding a fragile flame in his hands. If he hesitated, the light could die, and with it, the mother's life. Elias clenched his jaw, refusing to let panic enter, knowing that every calculation, every choice, had to be flawless. Back in the small home, Kale whispered softly to his mother, trying to calm her. "Mom, stay with me. You have to fight." His words were simple, almost childlike, but filled with love and determination. He watched as the nanobots moved through her body, invisible yet powerful. The virus fought back, mutating in ways Kale could not see. Beads of sweat formed on his brow, and he pressed his small hands to her cold skin, feeling her life slipping like sand through his fingers. Elias noticed a spike in the virus activity on his monitor. The infection was clever, fast, and adaptive, more dangerous than anything he had encountered. He adjusted the nanobot's programming instantly, creating countermeasures. He spoke calmly to Kyle, even though he felt a rush of adrenaline. "Kale, the virus is changing. You need to keep the monitor steady. Don't move the controls too quickly." The boy nodded, trying not to tremble. He followed every word, learning to trust the human across the stars. It was strange, impossible, yet Kyle could feel the human's calm presence, steadying his own panic. Minutes felt like hours as the virus spread faster than anticipated. Kyle's mother coughed violently, and the boy's heart skipped a beat. He leaned closer, holding her hand, murmuring encouragement. "Please, fight. Stay with me. You can do it." Tears fell freely now, but they were not just of fear. They were of hope, of determination, of unbreakable love. The nanobots worked tirelessly, scanning, repairing, and combating the virus inside her. Each beep from the console was a small victory, each glow a sign that life was not yet lost. Elias felt his pulse quicken as he watched the data spike. The virus was cunning, but he was faster, smarter, and fueled by Kyle's desperate faith. He could see the pattern forming, the point where the infection might finally weaken. His hands flew across the controls, adjusting, recalibrating, sending real-time instructions to Kale. The boy's small fingers pressed buttons with precision, guided by the human's calm voice. Together, they formed a rhythm, a dance between fear and action, between life and death. Outside, the planet's storms grew wilder, electricity crackling in the skies, metal walls shook, alarms blared, yet Kyle remained steadfast. He whispered softly, singing a lullaby his mother loved, hoping it would reach her heart as much as the nanobots did. The mother's chest rose and fell more steadily, faintly, but noticeably. Kyle smiled through tears, his heart pounding with cautious hope. He had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the refusal to give in to it. Elias saw the spike in the virus finally begin to drop, the nanobots successfully suppressing its activity. He adjusted the final sequences, ensuring that every trace of the infection would be neutralized. The human's voice crackled over the console, calm but triumphant. "You're doing it, Kale. Keep steady. We're almost there." The boy's hands trembled, but he pressed each button as instructed. Watching the monitors, every rise and fall of his mother's breathing filled him with hope and wonder. The impossible was happening, and it was happening because he refused to give up. Finally, the nanobots began stabilizing her systems, repairing the damage, and restoring her strength. Kyle hugged his mother gently, whispering, "You're going to be okay. Human helped us." Elias smiled across the light years, proud of the boy's bravery. For the first time in hours, both human and alien felt a small measure of relief, but the journey was not over yet. He knew other challenges awaited. Still, in that moment, life had won a temporary victory, and the impossible connection between Kyle and Elias had proven stronger than fear, distance, or despair. The universe seemed to pause, watching the fragile victory, and Kale understood something new. Hope was alive, courage mattered, and humans, even far away, could be heroes. The race against time had not ended, but fine, or now, life had been preserved, and a bond had been forged that neither boy nor human would ever forget. Kyle watched the small glow hovering above the floor of his home, his wide green eyes reflecting the soft light. He did not fully understand it, yet he knew it was the humans' doing. The tiny sphere hummed softly, moving as if alive, and Kale felt a spark of hope he had not felt in hours. His mother lay weak beside him, her chest rising slightly, but her breath still shallow. He leaned over her, whispering, "It's okay. Human is helping. You'll be fine." The glow grew brighter, then split into hundreds of tiny particles, moving like a swarm. Kale's heart leapt, the particles crawling over his mother's skin, entering her body in ways he could not see. It was both strange and beautiful, a miracle unfolding right before his eyes. Across light years, Dr. Elias Grant monitored every movement of the nanobot swarm. His fingers flew across holographic controls, adjusting, guiding, and tracking the microscopic machines. The virus inside the mother was clever, hiding in her cells, mutating, trying to resist, but Elias had predicted every move, preparing the nanobots for every possible reaction. His mind worked faster than ever, fueled by the connection he felt to the boy and his mother. Every beep from the monitors, every shift in the particles, every faint rise in her breathing gave him hope. He spoke to Kale softly, guiding him through each step. "Hold her hand. Keep calm. The swarm is working. Almost there." Kale pressed his small hands against his mother's chest, feeling the warmth return slowly. He whispered encouragement, his voice trembling but full of love. "Fight. Stay with me. Human will help. I know you can." The particles moved inside her body, scanning, repairing, and restoring damaged tissue. The virus resisted, trying to spread again, but the nanobots were faster, smarter, and relentless. Kale could not see the battle inside her, but he felt its impact with ever. A rise and fall of her chest. For the first time in what felt like forever, hope began to replace the fear in his heart. Outside the home, the storms of Kyle's planet raged, winds whipping against the metal walls. Electric sparks danced along the edges of the room, threatening to knock out the fragile machines. Kale shivered, but he did not leave his mother's side. He sang softly, a lullaby his mother loved, hoping the sound would soothe her and guide the nanobots. The human's voice over the console was calm, precise, and reassuring. Elias adjusted the swarm's speed and energy, countering the planet's interference. He was no longer just a scientist. He was a lifeline, connecting two worlds with courage, knowledge, and determination. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and a shadow passed across Kale's monitors. A rival alien faction had detected the strange energy of the nanobots and sought to stop them. Kale froze, fear gripping him like a vice. The shadow moved closer, mechanical claws reaching for the glowing swarm, trying to destroy it. He screamed, "No! Stop! Human! Help!" Elias's eyes widened as he saw the interference spike. He adjusted the controls, sending the swarm into defensive mode, protecting the mother while continuing the healing process. The battle was no longer only inside her body. It had moved into the room, into the very energy of the planet. Kale clutched his mother's hand, refusing to leave, refusing to give up. He whispered, "Stay with me. You can fight. Human is here." The swarm moved faster, tiny machines weaving around obstacles, repairing cells, fighting the virus, and shielding the mother from the shadow's attack. Elias's voice guided Kale, calm and steady. "Hold her steady. Don't panic. The swarm is protecting you. Trust it." The boy's hands trembled, but he followed every instruction, moving with the rhythm of the nanobots. It was a delicate dance, a dance between life and death, between courage and despair, and Kale felt every beat of it. Minutes stretched and the mother's chest rose more steadily. The shadow recoiled, unable to breach the swarm's protection. Kyle's tears fell freely, mixing relief and wonder. He looked at the glowing particles moving inside her, and for the first time, he dared to believe she might survive. The storm outside began to calm slightly, as if the planet itself sensed the miracle occurring inside the small home. Elias watched the data spike, nanobots finishing their work, repairing damaged cells, and neutralizing the virus completely. He let out a small sigh of relief, proud of the boy's bravery and the strength of their impossible connection. Kale hugged his mother, whispering softly into her ear, "You're safe. Human helped. You're alive." The mother's eyes fluttered open, weak but alive, and she smiled faintly, her hand resting on her son's. The boy laughed through tears, feeling joy, love, and wonder all at once. Across light years, Elias smiled as well, knowing that his risk, his courage, and his connection had saved a life. The impossible had happened. A human had crossed worlds, guided a boy, and healed a mother from a deadly alien virus. And in that moment, Kyle understood the power of courage, hope, and the bond that could form between species. The room was quiet now, except for the gentle hum of the nanobots finishing their work. Kale and his mother rested, exhausted but alive. The connection between them and the human had created a bridge that could never be broken. Across the stars, Elias leaned back, knowing that life, hope, and courage had triumphed once again, and Kale whispered softly, "Thank you, human. You came. You really came." The universe seemed to pause, acknowledging the miracle that had crossed worlds and the impossible connection that had saved a life. Kale was exhausted, yet he could not rest fully, even though his mother's breathing had stabilized. Zed, a strange unease filled the room. The glow of the nanobots dimmed slightly, flickering, and Kale noticed shadows moving in the corners of the monitors. His heart skipped a beat, and he whispered, "What? What is that?" The human's voice crackled through the console, calm but urgent. "Kyle, stay calm. Something is interfering with the swarm. Someone is trying to stop it." The boy's eyes widened in fear, his small hands tightening around his mother's. He had thought the danger was over, but now a new threat had arrived. Outside, through the faint glow of the holographic monitors, a figure moved, cloaked in shadows. Kale's planet was home to rival factions, beings who believed that power came from fear and control. They had detected the strange human technology, and they wanted it destroyed. One of them, a tall alien with sharp features and glowing red eyes, reached toward the glowing swarm. Kale gasped and cried, "No, stop, don't touch it." But the figure ignored him, moving with precision and intent. It was betrayal. The boy realized that even within his own species, some wanted his mother dead, and the human, though far away, was now their only hope. Dr. Elias Grant's eyes narrowed as he saw the interference spike. He knew instantly that this was deliberate, calculated, and dangerous. The shadowy alien wanted to destroy the nanobots and finish the virus's work. Elias adjusted his controls, sending the swarm into defensive mode, protecting the mother while continuing the healing process. He spoke calmly, "Kale, stay close to your mother. Don't panic. Trust the swarm. Follow my instructions." Kale's small hands trembled, but he obeyed, pressing the buttons exactly as Elias directed. The bond between human and alien boy had to hold. If it broke, the mother could die, and the boy might lose hope forever. The shadow moved faster, claws reaching for the glowing nanobot. "Tease! Trying to destroy them!" Kale screamed. "Mom, hold on! Human is helping! Don't let them take you!" The mother coughed weakly, but raised a trembling hand, as if sensing her son's fear. Kale felt panic rising, but Elias's voice cut through it like a beacon. "You can do this, Kale. Keep the swarm alive. Hold steady. Almost there." Kale followed every instruction, every movement of the console, every flicker of the glowing particles. It was a delicate balance between the shadow trying to destroy, the virus still inside, and the nanobots fighting for her life. Minutes felt like hours, the tension unbearable. Kale's eyes never left the monitors, watching the shadowy figure, the glowing swarm, and his mother's fragile chest. Every beep, every light, every hum became a message, a sign, a small victory or warning. The shadow's movements grew frantic, aggressive, but the nanobots adapted, weaving around obstacles, shielding the mother, and continuing the healing process. Kale whispered softly, "Please, don't fail. Human is with us. Stay alive." His tears fell freely, but he refused to leave his mother's side. He realized that courage was not about fearlessness, it was about refusing to give in. Elias monitored the battle, adjusting, predicting, and reacting to the shadow's every move. He was the calm in the storm, the steady hand guiding the boy, and the mind controlling the swarm. He sent a final command to the nanobots, creating a protective shield around the mother. The shadow recoiled, unable to breach it. Kale gasped in relief, but the fight was not over. The rival alien's eyes glowed with fury, and he retreated into the shadows, plotting, calculating, vowing to return. Kale clutched his mother's hand, whispering words of comfort. "You're safe. You're alive. Human saved us." The mother's eyes fluttered open, weak but aware. She smiled faintly, her hand resting on her son's, and Kale felt a warmth in his chest. Tears streamed down his face, not just for relief, but for the courage he had discovered within himself. Elias smiled across light years, proud of the boy's bravery and trust. Together they had faced betrayal, danger, and fear, and had survived. The shadow had reminded them that danger was not always visible. Sometimes, it came from the very world they trusted. Kale understood that life was fragile, and courage often meant facing the unknown. He looked at the glowing swarm, at his mother's slow but steady breathing, and at the console connecting him to a human far away, and he knew that trust, hope, and determination could cross worlds, overcome fear, and create miracles. Finally, the room fell quiet, the storm outside fading. The nanobots completed their work, neutralizing the virus completely. Kale hugged his mother, whispering, "We did it. We survived. Human helped us." The mother squeezed his hand, weak but alive. Elias watched the monitors, knowing that the battle had tested them, strengthened them, and bonded them in ways nothing else could. The universe had shifted slightly, acknowledging the bravery of a boy, the love of a mother, and the courage of a human who answered an impossible call. Kale realized that life was precious, and that even in betrayal, hope could survive. He looked at the stars outside, wondering what other challenges awaited. But for now, they had won, and a connection had been forged. That distance, species, or fear could not break. The room was quiet now, except for the soft hum of the nanobots. Kale sat beside his mother, holding her hand, his green eyes wide with wonder. Her chest rose steadily now, her breathing stronger than it had been in hours. The boy could hardly believe it. Life was returning to her fragile body. He whispered, "You're going to be okay. I knew human would help. I knew it." Tears ran freely down his cheeks, mixing relief and awe. He pressed closer, watching the nanobots move invisibly inside her. They worked tirelessly, scanning, repairing, and strengthening her cells. The virus had been strong, fast, and cruel, but these tiny machines, guided by a human far away, were stronger, smarter, and relentless. Across the galaxy, Dr. Elias Grant monitored every movement of the swarm. His fingers flew over holographic controls, adjusting their energy, speed, and precision. He could see the virus weakening, struggling to survive inside her. The boy's hope fueled him, the mother's courage strengthened him, and the impossible connection between them inspired him. He spoke gently through the console. "Kale, the virus is losing. Keep steady. The nanobots are almost done." Kale nodded, feeling a courage he had never known. He followed every instruction, pressing buttons, watching screens, and keeping his mother steady. It was more than guidance. It was a bond forming across light years, one built on trust, love, and determination. The shadows from the rival faction had retreated for now, but Kyle remained alert. Every flicker of light on the monitors made him tense. He whispered softly to his mother, singing the lullaby she had taught him, hoping it would soothe her as much as the nanobots did. Her chest rose higher, color returning to her skin, and he felt hope growing inside him. He realized that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. The human's voice on the console was steady, calm, and reassuring, guiding him through the final steps. Kale felt less alone, even across the vast emptiness of space. Somehow, they had become a team, a boy and a human, connected by desperation, love, and hope. Minutes passed and the nanobots worked faster, repairing damaged cells, neutralizing the last traces of the virus. Kale watched as the monitors displayed stable readings, her life signs improving steadily. He held his mother close, whispering, "You're stronger than it. Stronger than the virus. Stronger than anything." The mother's eyes opened fully now, and she smiled weakly, squeezing Kale's hand. The boy laughed softly, tears still falling, but his heart lighter than it had been in hours. He had seen despair, fear, and helplessness, and now he had seen a miracle. He realized that hope, courage, and connection could change everything. Dr. Grant adjusted the final sequences of the swarm, ensuring the virus would not return. The last trace of the infection was neutralized, her body fully stabilized. He exhaled slowly, proud of the boy's bravery and the trust they had shared. For hours he had guided them, fought against impossible odds, and now the miracle was complete. Kale hugged his mother tightly, whispering over and over, "Thank you, thank you, human saved us." The mother rested her head against him, exhausted but alive. She felt a warmth spreading through her, not just from her recovery, but from the courage of her son and the human who had reached across the stars. Outside, the storm on Kale's planet began to calm, as if the universe itself was acknowledging the triumph. The shadows from the rival faction had vanished, temporarily defeated. Kale looked at the glowing nanobots one last time, amazed at the tiny miracles working inside his mother. He realized that life was fragile, hope was powerful, and courage could cross worlds. He pressed his forehead to hers, whispering, "I will never let anything happen to you again. Human helped us. and I will remember." Elias watched the reading stabilize completely, a smile spreading across his face. He knew the boy's bravery had been as important as his own skill. Together, across galaxies, they had performed a miracle. The virus had been defeated, life restored, and trust between species proven stronger than fear or distance. He spoke softly to Kale. "You did it. Your courage saved your mother. Never forget that." Kale's eyes shone with pride and gratitude. "Thank you, human. We couldn't have done it without you." Even light years apart, the bond between them felt unbreakable. It was a connection built on hope, desperation, and the undeniable proof that heroism could come from anyone, anywhere. The mother stirred fully, her eyes opening, and she whispered, "Kyle, you were brave. You saved me." The boy hugged her tightly, tears falling freely. He had faced fear, danger, and betrayal, yet he had not given up. And across the galaxy, a human had answered a call no one else could hear. The impossible had happened, a miracle had been made, and life had been preserved against all odds. Kale looked at the stars through the window, whispering softly, "Thank you, human, for everything." And Elias, watching the console, smiled, knowing that this was more than science, more than technology. It was courage, hope, and the power of connection. The universe had witnessed a miracle in motion, and the bond formed between a boy and a human would never be forgotten. The suns of Kyle's home planet rose slowly over the horizon, bathing the small city in warm light. For the first time in many days, the streets felt calm, quiet, and alive. Kyle sat beside his mother in their home, holding her hand gently. She smiled faintly, her breathing steady, her eyes filled with pride and love. The virus was gone, the shadows had retreated, and life had returned. But Kyle knew that the story was bigger than survival. It was about courage, trust, and the bond that had formed across the stars. He thought about the human who had saved them, Dr. Elias Grant, a stranger from a distant world, someone he had never seen in person. Yet Elias had been there when it mattered most, guiding him, protecting him, and giving hope. Kale realized that heroism was not about strength alone. It was about listening, caring, and answering the desperate cries of someone in need. The boy hugged his mother tightly, whispering, "We survived, and it's because of human. They saved us." The mother squeezed his hand, her eyes moist. "You were brave too, Kale. Never forget that." Far away, Elias leaned back in his lab, exhausted but fulfilled. He had faced dangers, calculated risks, and answered a call no human had ever received, yet he felt a quiet joy knowing he had helped save a life. The connection with Kale had changed him, reminding him that courage could cross light years, species, and worlds. He looked at the stars through the window, imagining the small boy hugging his mother, and he knew that this story would not end here. It would inspire others, across planets, across generations. Kale began to explore his world again, curious and brave. He ran through the streets, feeling the wind on his face, noticing the small details he had ignored in fear. Life seemed brighter now, filled with possibility, yet he never forgot the lessons he had learned. Fear could be faced, hope could be held, and help could come from the most unexpected places. He shared stories with his friends and neighbors, telling them about the human who had crossed worlds to save a life. And though some doubted, Kale's sincerity, courage, and experience convinced them. They listened in awe, learning that bravery was not limited by size, species, or distance. In the following days, Kale's mother grew stronger. She taught him again about compassion, resilience, and the importance of never giving up. Kale listened, remembering the moments of fear, the frantic hours beside her, and the human who had guided them through the impossible. Together, they began rebuilding their life, stronger and wiser than before. Kale often looked up at the night sky, imagining Elias watching over them. He whispered, "Thank you. You changed my life. And maybe you changed the universe too." Somehow, across the vast distance, the boy felt the human's presence, steady and reassuring. The people of Kale's city began to notice something remarkable. Stories of courage, hope, and cooperation between species spread quietly. Neighbors who had once feared outsiders now spoke with kindness. Communities grew closer, inspired by the bond between a boy and a human from far away. Kale's experience became a lesson, teaching that even the smallest actions could ripple across worlds. He felt proud, not because of himself alone, but because of the team, the trust, and the bravery that had saved his mother. And he understood that the universe was full of possibilities, miracles, and heroes waiting to rise. Elias documented everything carefully, knowing the story must be remembered. He wrote of the boy's courage, the mother's resilience, and the impossible connection that had allowed life to triumph. He sent the records across space, hoping they would inspire humans, aliens, and anyone who heard them. For him, it was more than science. It was a legacy of hope, a proof that courage could unite worlds. Kale and his mother would carry that legacy in their hearts forever, and Elias, too, would remember that answering a desperate cry could create something bigger than life itself. At night, Kale sat on a small hill looking at the stars. He thought about fear, betrayal, hope, and the miracles he had witnessed. He felt a sense of peace, knowing that even when the universe seemed vast and dangerous, connection, courage, and love could make it small and safe. He whispered to the sky, "We will remember. We will be brave. We will carry the story." And somewhere across galaxies, Elias smiled, imagining the boy and his mother alive, thriving and brave. The universe had witnessed their struggle, their courage, and their triumph. And in that story, a legacy was born, a legacy of the brave, the compassionate, and the unstoppable. Kale hugged his mother once more, whispering softly, "We survived together, and we will always be brave." She smiled, her eyes shining with love and pride. The suns rose higher, the city shimmered with life, and the stars above seemed to twinkle in approval. For Kyle, his mother, and the human who had answered the impossible call, life was no longer fragile. It was a story of hope, heroism, and the courage to reach beyond fear, and that story would never be forgotten.